Hello and welcome to the first of a mini-part series that I'm about to be making on the Introduction to Visual C#. Now, this is Module 1, Lesson 1, and I will be introducing you to .NET and the .NET framework. We will be exploring Visual Studio.NET and creating our first Windows application project. So you may be wondering, what is .NET? Well, .NET is basically just a framework or a bunch of predefined code that allows us to program in one of many different languages, C# included. And this is the program we use to code in the programming language of choice. This is Visual Studio. Now, I'm using the professional version 2008. You may be using an Express version or with a different number. It doesn't matter. It's all basically C#, so don't worry about it if your interface looks different. So let's just quickly go over some of the things inside Visual Studio. In the file, the first thing you will always be able to do is either create a new project if you're using an Express version, or if you're using the whole entire Visual Studio like I am, you'll be able to create a website as well, or just a new blank file. But for now, we're just going to go New Project, or you can do Control-Shift-N as it says right there. So go to File, New Project. And when you do that, you should see a window that looks kind of similar to this. Again, if you have only C#, you should only see this Visual C# thing. Since I'm using the Pro version, I have lots of other options available. But basically, the important thing is the templates. You can see all the different types of templates we can create. And for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to do Windows Form application. And so you just merely click the template that you want, and you go down to the name, and we're going to call this Hello World Form 1. You can call it something else if you wish. And the default location should be the same. It doesn't really matter. The solution name is the same as the name. You can change it, but you don't need to. And so that's really all there is to it. You just click OK. And as soon as you do that, a page will open up once it creates the actual project. There we go. And this is a form. Now, before you get a little freaked out at what you're looking at, basically what we have here is a Windows form, and at its simplest level, this is what a Windows form is. What I just did was I built the application. Don't worry about that for right now. This is a Windows form. It's basically just an application that is completely blank, and it's inside of a window. So that's the very first thing that is created automatically by the computer when you create a new Windows form project. And you'll notice I'm resizing it over here. You can resize it to be however you want. It doesn't really matter. So let me explain the layout first. How it works, at least how I have it set up, and this is the default I believe, is on the left you have your toolbox. You can click the little plus minus next to all these different options, and you can just scan through it. You'll notice like there's some common form objects like a button, a checkbox, a label, a link label, radio button, rich text box, etc. There's all these different objects, and as I scroll down, I'll begin to see a lot of other ones, and some of them are really scary, like serial port, but don't worry about the scary ones. Anyway, these are all objects. Now, how Visual Studio works is I can just drag, I can click and hold and drag an object from the toolbox onto my form. So go ahead and drag a lot of stuff on there. We're not actually going to do anything with it, but just for fun, drag things on there. And as I'm doing this, you'll notice that all the objects come up, and I'm able to resize them and move them as I wish. And it has even little like helpers where it anchors it. It shows you those blue lines if you try to move it. And so it makes it pretty easy to actually create an interface. So I'm just like, oh yeah, tons of objects. And that is the basic to the interface, the initial interface. Now there's another aspect to this, and that is over here on the right side you'll see the Solution Explorer, the Class View, and the Properties. Now the Properties is actually one of the most the Properties and Solution Explorer are both equally important. So let's click Properties, and I'm going to click this little pin button right here, which kind of solidifies it there so it doesn't go away. The Properties will show me things about any object I click. So if I go ahead and press this text box right here, once I click it, the properties for the text box come up. So in the text, it can be like "Hello World," or I can change the font if I want by clicking the font and then clicking the dot 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 button, and I can change it to be whatever I want. Now it's super gigantic. And so really, that's what the properties box allows us to do, and we'll be looking at it a lot more in detail later on once we do more complicated things, but for now just know that it exists, and it allows you to change pretty much any property you can think of for any object. So I could click, like, for example, the form itself, and I can change the text of it to be "Hello World Project," and press enter. And you'll notice as soon as I do that, it actually changes the form title. And I can change the background color if I wanted, and that's a really ugly background color, but it doesn't matter. Forecolor, which is like the actual text color and stuff. So basically, that is what the properties toolbar is used for. So what I'm going to do now at this point is I'm going to click the form. I'm going to press and hold Control and press A on the keyboard, and that will select every object that I've created, and then I'm going to press Delete. So since we are making our very first application ever, I'm going to go ahead and click the form, and I'm going to change its background from active caption to something more manageable, like white smoke. I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to click this auto hide button again so that it goes away. So what I'm going to show you is how to make a Hello World project. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag a button on. I'm going to make the button really big, super gigantic big. I'm going to go to the properties of the button, and remember how I changed the forecolor to be something else? That was the text color. And since it looks really hard to see and unattractive, I'm going to change it to black, and I'll change the text to be "Show Message." So basically, Hello World is the first app that pretty much, it's the standard first application that anyone will make in any programming language, and it shows you how to make the program say "Hello World." So now that I have this button on the screen and it says "Show Message" and it's resized however you want it, you can make it different. All I do is I double click the button, and it brings me up to the actual code page, and you can do this for any object, and I'll go more into detail about this in future projects, but for now, basically, when I double click the button, it automatically created a code block that will be run whenever I press the button. So disregarding all of the basics about C#, I'm just going to show you a quick way to do a message box. And you basically go messagebox.show, open parenthesis, and you just type your message: "Hello, comma, world, period, close quote, close parenthesis, semicolon." So once I do that, that's really all there is to my app right now. I want to press Control S to save it, and now I'll show you how you actually create the app. So up here in the toolbar, there's actually a lot of different menus that you can use, and for now we're just going to look at the debug, and we're going to go Start Debugging. And so when I click that, it automatically builds the project, launches it, and creates the actual form with everything set up. So now all I have to do is click the Show Message button, and the little message box that says "Hello World" pops up. And that is all there is to Module 1, Lesson 1, Introduction to Visual C#. Thank you for watching my tutorial.